Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and Apple released iPadOS 26 to the public. iPadOS 26 is available around the world at the same time for everyone on all iPadOS 26 supported devices. This year we only lose support for one device compared to iPadOS 18. So the iPad 7th generation is no longer supported. All of the other devices still will work with iPadOS 26. Now this came in at 7.92 gigabytes on the iPad Pro M4 13-inch, but it can vary in size depending on device and which version you're installing from. Now in this video, I'm covering what's new in just iPadOS compared to iOS 26, as there's many new features in both, and I covered them in an hour-and-a-half long video with all of the new changes and features. But iPadOS gets some specific updates I wanted to share with you. The first one is liquid glass. Now you've already seen this on iOS, but if you take a look here down in the dock, we have refractions and reflections. You can see the way the light bends behind the dock there. So we have this clear dock. We also have changes in the control center. Things such as notifications get changes. So if we pull down here, you'll see here with one of the notifications, we can swipe it off the screen here, but it has that liquid glass design. And there's of course a liquid glass clock here as well. So all of the same things we get on iOS and macOS is consistent across all operating systems. And we have new light mode and dark mode icons as well. So if we go into edit, just press and hold on the home screen, go into edit and then customize. We have dark. We also have default, so all of the light icons with all of the new look here. We also have clear icons, so that makes the widgets clear as well. So if you want to change that, and you can see some of the other new ones here as we scroll through. We can make this darker as well. So if we press and hold, go to edit and then customize, we have dark mode icons that are clear. We also have tinted icons, and you can see these here. You can make them larger or smaller. So you have all of those options like you would expect, but some new icons with more depth as well to go along with liquid glass. So you'll see new animations and changes throughout. So as we scroll up and down in the control center, you'll see things bounce a little bit. We have new controls, and it just looks a little bit different. We have an all-new system that will really make people happy if you've been wanting this for a long time on your iPad, and that has to do with a new windowing system. So let's place this down here. We'll go into our settings. And within our settings here on the left, we have multitasking and gestures. We now have new windowed apps. If we switch to this, we can then change the apps to a windowed system. We still have Stage Manager and full screen apps, but let me show you how this works. There are a couple options though you'll want here. Swipe to reveal menu bar, 4 and 5 finger app switching, productivity gestures, shake to undo, swipe from corner, and start picture-in-picture automatically. We have a bunch of options, so let's go through what this looks like. So if we go into settings, you'll see we have our windowed apps selected. We now have a new handle in the bottom right, and we can just shrink this down into a window. We can resize it. We can make it tall, maybe bring it into thirds. We can make it as large or small as we'd want. We can go into Safari and do the same sort of thing. So you'll see here, we can shrink Safari down, and you'll see the handle here on either side. And you can do the same thing with maybe other applications. Swipe up, they get out of your way, and then you'll see maybe we go into music. Again, we'll shrink that down, go into the other things, and now we have 3 different windows. We can also resize them to however we'd like. So maybe bring them in like this. Maybe we want to bring this one over here. I threw it to the side with a new flick gesture, and now we have sort of a split view look. Again, if I swipe home, I can go into music, and you'll see it here. So again, I can take this, throw it to the top, and it goes full screen. I can shrink it back down, throw it to the bottom, and it goes back to the dock. So that's how that works. We can just sort of grab these different applications here, move them around, throw it into the dock, do the same here, throw it up, and it goes full screen. So that's something that's new, where you can sort of throw it to the sides, take it full screen, minimize it, and then maybe switch between 2 windows. Flick to the side, bring this up, go back into music. Let's throw it over here. Again, let's maybe move this here. So you can move these however you'd like, maybe resize them so you have 3 on the screen at once, whatever works best for you. So again, we'll bring in maybe Safari here, bring it over to the here, and we may need to resize it. Now, sometimes this can get a little bit tricky to figure out how to do this, but you'll see the way it works. And again, if I want to get rid of it, I can do that. Now, unfortunately, Apple has removed the other options here with split view. So if we go back into full screen apps, we can't bring in Safari and then maybe something else and then tile them. So for example, if I drag music up here, you can't tile them or go into split view anymore. You have to use this windowing system in order to do that. So that's something to keep in mind, but you can use the windowing system and utilize this up to 15 windows depending on your device. Now, if you want to start over, swipe up, it goes out of the way, swipe up again, and it disappears and you can start over. So again, we can bring in multiple applications, bring in maybe music, swipe it out of the way, go back and forth, tap on our apps, whatever you'd like to do, but then swipe up again and they go away. So that's something, if you learn the gestures, you get used to and it works just fine. Now, maybe we have a bunch of applications open and we want to go into those, but we can't really see what's here. We remembered we opened a window in the background. Well, we can swipe up and hold and we have expose or app expose. So you'll see all of the different applications. You can also see things that were recently closed maybe. Swipe over, you've got books and calendar and everything else. Maybe you're working on a shortcut, you again have that here. So that's one way you can just swipe up for a little bit and see what you've got. If you're someone that likes to use your iPad with maybe a mouse or trackpad, or maybe the Magic Keyboard with a trackpad, the pointer has been updated to be more precise. So we have a more precise cursor this time around. You can see right here where it still sort of does the same thing. When you hover over an app, you can click on it, grab the controls, and it sort of adapts and highlights things to let you know where you're pointing. But it's definitely far more precise than it used to be. Scroll through things, and it feels very natural. If we go into settings, we can customize this as well under accessibility. Under accessibility, if we scroll down, you'll see that we have pointer controls. So if you want to maybe increase the contrast or automatically hide the pointer, it will do that. You can change the color of it, the pointer size itself, so you'll see how big it's getting there, or also ignore trackpad. So whatever works for you, you can of course change that, turn off the pointer animations, scrolling speed, and everything else can be adjusted. So all of those customizations are still there, and it's more precise this time around. Now also, if we go into our multitasking and gestures, we have Stage Manager, and we can use that just like before. So if we want to go into maybe Safari, go into maybe our settings, go back out, go back into Safari, move it around just like before, we can do that. So all of those things are still there, but split view is not and slide over is not, unfortunately. Hopefully they'll bring that back, but you can sort of gesture to swipe between different applications like that, like you always could. And that was something that they removed in the beta and brought back. So hopefully we'll see slide over return for those that want to use it. You can also use those windowing systems when you're connected to an external display. And one thing you may have already noticed is we have a menu bar at the top. So if we go into Safari, you'll see we have a menu bar if we swipe down. So this menu bar actually works just like it does on a Mac. So we have things such as File and Edit and View and History. You can see here with Bookmarks, Window, and Help. So if we go into File, it works just like it does on Mac. So History, View, and everything else. We can go into Podcasts and see the same thing. Now you can turn this off if you don't want it to be there, but you'll see it here where we have Edit and View and all of our controls and everything else. So again, this is becoming more and more like a Mac, and I think a lot of people will be happy about that. It sort of unifies things across all of the OSs. Something else they've updated, however, at this time we haven't seen updated yet, is Final Cut Pro. When you're exporting a video, it can now work in the background. Applications or developers can sort of set it up so that maybe when you're exporting, whether it's something in Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, LumaFusion, or one of those, you can actually export and just have it run in the background. So let me try it now with Final Cut Pro. So we'll go ahead and export this one. Now it's exporting. If I swipe home, it should come in and tell me that it's actually sort of working in the background, but so far it's not working yet. So hopefully we'll get updates to these applications. Maybe they're out by the time you're watching this video. Safari gets an update with Liquid Glass as well. If we go into Safari, maybe scroll up, you'll see that the address bar sort of shrinks away and gets out of the way, and it's just sort of a translucent menu bar. We also have a new sidebar that's been updated to look just like it does on macOS Tahoe. So this is something that you may not be used to. It may take some time to get used to, but if we go into maybe our bookmarks here, you'll see we have a different look to it. It is extra taps, and hopefully it will be customizable in the future, but it does take a little getting used to, so that's where it is if you've been looking for it. We also have another option to add to homepage. So maybe we want to add this one. We'll go to More. We've got Add to Home Screen, and under Add to Home Screen, it can now act as a web app. So open as a web app when you save it to your home screen, and then you can open it like that if you want to. So we'll add that. You'll see it here. So now we can open iPhone Air, Apple, and it opens just to that page as a full screen web app. So that's something that's a little bit different and new. You can do that on any web page or anything that's online using Safari. There's also enhanced privacy updates for Safari, which now include advanced fingerprinting protection in regular browsing by default and not just private browsing. And when a contact is blocked, for example, users can now use Safety Check right away to stop sharing across the system. Now there's some updates in Notes. I've talked about most in iOS 26, but there's one in particular that's specific to the iPad. If we go into Notes, within Notes, if we go to our tool palette here at the bottom and swipe over, we have an all-new Calligraphy Read Pen. So this is a new option with some presets with angles, thickness, and opacity that allows us to write in traditional calligraphy. So maybe we want to write Zollotech here. Let's try that again. We'll write Zollotech. You'll see what that looks like, but of course you can use this for traditional calligraphy as well. We also have something that they've brought back that I shared in another video, and that's the loop. So the loop has been brought back if you wanted to use that. I know some people were disappointed it wasn't in previous versions. And then also one other thing, even though I've mentioned it before, let's get rid of this, close the tool palette. Maybe we'll bring up the keyboard. We'll type, "This is a new note." And with that, if we press and hold, we can select text with this new loop here that makes it easier to see. So it highlights everything sort of with this movable liquid glass that's bouncy, and it's just sort of a new look. So that's something that's been updated as well. We also have updates in the Files app. This is quite a big update on the iPad. So in the iPad, if we go into Files here, within Files, you'll see our folders, of course, and everything else, but we have an updated list view. So here in the upper right, you can see list, column, icons. So if you want to see this in columns, you can, of course, adjust it, bring it back to list view, and it just is updated with more information. You can swipe to delete, of course, modify this, or just sort it more easily as well by date. It works much more like what we have on Mac as well. We also have folder customization. So you'll see new custom folder. If we press and hold, we can go in here, get info, rename, compress, customize folder, and tags. Now we can actually change the folder tag here. We can change the color for the tag. So maybe we'll switch it to blue. We'll get rid of red, but if you add red and blue, it will actually combine them and help you sort that all together. And then also we can select maybe an emoji or an object. So maybe we'll add this here. And now we have a customized folder. So just like macOS Tahoe, you can do that on iPadOS 26. Something else that's very nice is if we press and hold on this photo here, you'll see on the right-hand side it says Open With. It now gives us a list of applications we can open this with every time, or we can preview it with Quick Look. And Quick Look is part of another new option, but let's take a look at that in a moment. And one other thing we can do with our folders here is if we press and hold on the folder, bring up the menu, go to Add To, we can now add that folder to Favorites or the dock. So the dock should have that folder now, and it's here with my emoji. So that's something they've updated. Lots of nice new features in Files. They've also added a new application called Preview. Just like we have on the Mac, we have it now on the iPad, and we can move this around with this little loop here, but this gives you an idea. Here's a wallpaper I've used in the past. We can preview it, we can rotate it, we can change things about it. We can bring up our tool palette here. And if we go into the options, we can adjust the size and even remove the background. But it is a background, so it sort of removed everything that was around the image itself. So we have some nice options here. Again, it's just the preview app that we have on the Mac that you now have on the iPad and also iPhone. We have the new Journal app. So if we go into Journal, this is something people have wanted on iPad for a long time. And you can see here it's syncing with my iPhone and my Mac now that they all have the Journal app. We can have multiple journals on the left here, so we can add a new one, add a glyph, a color, and a name. So if we want more than one journal, we can do that. And it also has journaling suggestions along with places and insights, just like the iPhone and Mac now. So everything is sort of the same across all devices. We also have a new Games app. Again, this is new on iOS and Mac, and it sort of replaces Game Center that we had before. We have the home screen where you could start a challenge against a friend. We can see different things that people are playing, and we can also go into Arcade, see the latest games, see our friends here, maybe challenge them in a game they're playing, or see how they're doing in games they're playing. And then we have our library of games as well. Another thing that's new on iPad is we have the full phone app. So you'll see it here. If we go into phone, it looks just like the macOS phone app, but again, we can make calls right from here. So you'll see here's actually my brother. I can tap on this and place a phone call, and then we have the dial pad as well. So if we want to call someone, we can do that, and it works the exact same with call screening and everything else. Now, if I bring in my AirPods, one new feature that goes along with the new AirPods update I covered the other day, and also iPadOS, is we can use these as high-quality microphones now that they're updated. So whether that's in the camera app, maybe a meeting app. So let's go ahead and go into the camera here. So we'll go into camera, we'll turn this around, we'll go into video mode, spin it around here, and you can see me. And if we go maybe into the upper right into our control center, you'll see now that it recognizes it's connected. We can go in here and then select the input of the AirPods Pro 2. So if we want to use those for the microphone, we can use those for recording instead, and then it will record directly from my AirPods. So it will use the microphone on the AirPods to actually record. So it should help with overall sound quality, and supposedly it's much better on things such as AirPods Pro 3 also. We also have some accessibility changes. One of them has to do with the App Store specifically, so maybe we'll go to the new Sports app that was updated by Apple. So if we go to Sports here, give it a second to load, we can see Apple Sports, and if we scroll down, we should now have new accessibility labels. These accessibility labels are for those needing to know what specific features are supported, and this one supports voiceover, larger text, differentiate without color alone, reduced motion, voice control, dark interface, and sufficient contrast. So that's been updated, and another thing that we have for accessibility is some great updates here as well. So one thing we have is vehicle motion cues. So maybe you have motion sickness, you want to use this in the car. We can, of course, reduce motion, but we can turn on those vehicle motion cues now. So we can customize appearance with dynamic and regular. Again, all of the same things we have on iPhone and Mac now, just carried across to the iPad. So if you want to use that, it'll turn on when it senses motion. We also have the new accessibility reader. If we go under read and speak, you'll see accessibility reader, and this can help with doing things such as maybe reading a website that's more difficult to read. If we turn this on, you'll see autoplay in accessibility reader, or we can actually start the accessibility reader by using the accessibility shortcut from the control center. So we can use that. Let's go ahead and add it. So we have the new accessibility reader shortcut in the control center. Maybe we'll go to Safari, and here's the iPhone 17 Pro and Pro Max. Maybe we want to read more about this, but it's hard for us to see. We can have it read it to us. So if we press play,
iPhone 17 Pro, pre-order.
It highlights as it reads, and then we can customize this to make it easier to see also. So maybe we want a white background. We can change that, then edit, and then we can change the text color, the text size. We can turn on high legibility characters. We can also go down and change the line spacing, the word spacing, the character spacing, readable content width, and then also some other options as well. So lots of things to make this work for you, and it's available if you want to just enable that option in accessibility. Additionally, there's Braille access on the iPad and all of the new Braille features that carry across also. We also get live translation just like we do on iOS and macOS, so that works on the Messages app, it works in the phone app, and also works on FaceTime. So if you want to enable that, you can find that in the settings. I showed that in the other videos. And also we have Apple Intelligence features. Now, not anything really different than the others, but we can go over here into maybe Image Playground, create a new image. And the new thing here is, if we go in, we have ChatGPT. So we can create more realistic images, maybe with an oil painting look, watercolor, vector, anime, and print. So if we want to create maybe an iPad next to Apple Park, let's go ahead and see what it creates here. It will take a moment, go out to ChatGPT and create that image. You'll see it created an iPad next to Apple Park, and we can also create Genmoji and then stack them together. So let's go ahead and undo here. We'll get rid of this, and let's go ahead and create a Genmoji. So an apple with eyes, smiling, sitting in a chair. Let's try that and see what it creates. That's done on device. So we'll give it a second, and you'll see there's an apple sitting on a chair. Might be a little bit creepy, but you can create that, change the styles, and then combine them with something else. Maybe you want it on the background of maybe a beach or maybe your home porch or something like that. That's all now capable using Genmoji. To go along with Apple Intelligence, we also get some shortcuts updates. Not only do we get additional actions, but we can also create based on Apple Intelligence. So if we scroll down here, you'll see Apple Intelligence, and we have the option to use different models for Cloud, On-Device, or ChatGPT. We can use Image Playground, adjust the tone of text, summarize text, and everything else. There's also some suggestions if you want to go back here, maybe go into the gallery, give it a second to load, and you'll see Apple Intelligence. Use models in your shortcuts. We can summarize PDFs. We have Haiku, Morning Summary, and others. So again, there's some updates here. I've shared more of that in different videos, but if you want a full overview of shortcuts, let me know in the comments below. There's also new updates to Family where parents can move kids to child accounts more easily and take advantage of a wide set of parental controls designed to keep children safe. So they work across things such as communication limits, communication safety, and the App Store as well with more information. Now we also get some security updates in this update. And on Apple's security release website, you can see if we scroll down all of the latest releases. And if we scroll down in here, you'll see all of the latest security updates for things such as Apple Neural Engine, Bluetooth, Call History, IOKit, Notes, Sandbox, and more. And you can see what they fixed or what the issue was under Impact. So for systems here, you'll see it says an input validation issue was addressed. And the description to fix it was the issue was addressed by removing the vulnerable code. And then the CVE number and who may have suggested that there was an issue here. So that's all available here online. I'll link it in the description if you want to check it out. So lots of good information here. Now, as far as overall performance, I've been using it throughout the betas. I feel like the final version that's been released to the public is very fast, but this is the latest M4 iPad Pro. I really haven't had any issues with it. I haven't had odd crashes. Battery life may be a little bit of a concern, especially for the first few days as it continues to process things in the background. So for example, on this iPad, you'll see here, if we take a look at battery usage in the new battery graph, you'll see what we have as far as what's using it, YouTube, Safari, and other things. But yesterday I used 48% of my battery and had 2 hours and 17 minutes of screen on time. Usually about 6 on this device is normal, maybe using YouTube a lot. So today 59% was used and 4 hours and 3 minutes of screen on time. So it seems to be fine for me as far as battery, but it depends what you're doing. And of course it will vary, but give it a few days. Now, for those of you wondering about my battery health, if we take a look here, I'm at 94% with 207 cycles. Pretty normal for my iPads, but that's pretty much it for iPadOS 26. Let me know what you think of it. Do you love the new multitasking, or do you want something else? Do you prefer slide over? Let me know in the comments below. Of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. And if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.